Welcome to Radiant Guidance. Today I'm going to be discussing the critical degrees in astrology, what they mean, what they are, what are the critical degrees, and how they can actually be used, not just in natal astrology, but also in timing, predictive, and forecasting astrology. So thank you for tuning in. Now, you might want to get your chart handy. If you don't already have it out. And you might have already come to this video because you already know you have a planet at a critical degree. But I'm going to list the critical degrees right now. So within the cardinal signs, this is Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. It is 0 degrees, 13 degrees, and 26 degrees. Within the fixed signs, that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, it's 8 degrees, 9 degrees, 21 degrees, or 22 degrees. Within the mutable signs, that's Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces, it's 4 degrees and 17 degrees. So take note, do you have planets at any of those degrees or angles or your rising sign? So the critical degrees, where do they come from? So many include 0 and 29 to be critical degrees, though the 29th degree actually has a special kind of assignment as anaretic degree. And the anaretic degree, of course, is this like ending point of each sign. So those planets at that point or angles can be very karmic planets that hold a lot of age to them, experience to them, and they're kind of exhausted in a way. So it can be challenging for people to work with. But essentially, as the name implies, if you have planets at any of these important points, they're focal points, or you can think of them as like very sensitized points within the horoscope, within the whole zodiac. They actually are derived from the lunar mansions, which was a ancient division of the horoscope by roughly 13-degree increments. And so these critical degrees actually represent the cusp of all the lunar mansions. So they can be, planets at these degrees can be areas of our life that we struggle with in one way or another. For instance, planets at a cardinal critical degree can be where we kind of overdo things, overcompensate, overexert that energy. Planets that are at the critical fixed degrees can where we kind of underexpress those energies. And then planets in the mutable can be areas we're just kind of negligent or apathetic in. Now, ultimately, our greatest struggle is our greatest teacher, right? So these areas of life that the planet represents can be where we're kind of over and over faced with lessons, and ultimately it can become a strength. So to give an example, I have a friend who actually has about 4 planets at critical degrees. That's kind of a lot. And particularly their moon is at a critical degree of one of the fixed signs. Now, emoting and being vulnerable, expressing how they feel, it has been a struggle for them in their interpersonal life. Yet, interestingly, they're actually a musician, and that's something they've developed in the course of their life and shared with the world, and even have, made a career out of it. And it's interesting because it's an area where expression and emotion was a struggle, but ultimately they've kind of learned how to channel that into the music that they play. So that's just one example of how a critical degree can feel if you have one in your natal charts. It's definitely a planetary energy that demands attention in this lifetime. Now, when it comes to timing, the critical degrees can really be set off. They're kind of like a special timer that we have with progressions or transits when the progressed moon hits one of these critical degrees, or the sun, and with the moon it happens a lot more frequently throughout the life, that can really set off particular events that take the kind of focal point of a person's life at that time. So it's not to say that that'll be a bad event, but there's definitely going to be kind of something that comes to the fore. Now, the progressed sun, for instance, changing into a critical degree, or let's just say the 0 degree, can be really important. That happens usually around the age of 30, when your progressed sun is like entering a completely new sign, give or take, right? It depends on when what your birth degree is. But essentially that can really feel like a big shift in the persona and the way that the person views themselves and their identity and even their self-esteem and how they interplay with the world. Also, something I've observed is when people's ascendant is at a critical degree, typically there's like a very marked feature, something striking within their physical body, their appearance, because of course the ascendant in the first house represents the body. And I've also noticed that with a planet at a critical degree in the 6th house of a natal chart, that the person can often, depending on what the planet is, that can represent the organ system or area of the anatomy that struggles with a particular health issue. That can be something to notice and pay attention to, and it can be a big signifier of a vulnerable organ system or body part within that person. Can be an area where this person has had kind of like repeated issues going on. So for instance, having Mars at the critical degree, 0 degrees of Aries in the 6th house of health, this can be a person that deals with chronic headaches or has like a lot of head injuries in their lifetime. It's something very fascinating to look at. But ultimately, I don't want you to think that critical degrees are like a handicap. They're really not. They're really just focal points, meridian points, sensitive points that can indicate important events that are going to take place, or areas of life that we really have to assimilate, the planetary energy that we have to figure out how to befriend, more or less. So hopefully this was helpful for you. If you would like a consultation, as always, I have those on my personal website, radiantguidance.com. I also have other classes and teachings, and sometimes I make some herbal wares as well and have those available when I am inspired. I make a lot of products that are alternatives to more addictive or harmful things that people like to enjoy on a regular basis. So health solutions, wellness solutions, living in flow and harmony with nature and of course the cosmos. So thank you again for tuning in. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. I put out new content every week, and I appreciate you being here. Have a beautiful rest of your day.